So I've shot myself in the foot more times than I would like to admit, especially with zustand or zustand, or however you want to call it. And it's for a very simple reason, because it's a global state. You end up providing so much state to any component that you're using a hook from zustand with, right? And that can be very problematic. And what I would like to do in this video is essentially showcase a very simple example in here where the code that currently exists has a lot of places that are wrong, and I end up, I used to use this and I ended up shooting myself in the foot. And how do we fix it? How do we re-render things properly? Now, where's the problem to start with that? First, I guess I can mention I'm using React Scan. So if you see this sort of a hovering effect in here, this is essentially from React Scan. It basically tells you what is being re-rendered and where, right? I'll put the link for it down in the description as well. So to start with, we have a very simple application. It has a flag on and off, right? And it has a counter, and it has this sort of a component that says, oh, is the counter more than 5 or not, basically. To look at the code, this is essentially our state. We have a counter. We can increment, decrement, and reset. And we have a flag and a flip flag, and this is sort of the implementation. Very straightforward, very simple. Now, one approach to do this is to basically just separate this, to have two different states or two different stores, one for the flag and one for the counter. But a lot of times, at least for me, I like to put everything together, especially when in my head the state has a lot of sort of elements in it. I don't want to destruct everything, or sometimes they are related to each other. So obviously, you have to separate, separation of concerns, stuff like that. But that's not always the most valuable or the best way to approach things, maybe. And on top of that, it might not always, it'll help you a bit, but there are more tricks. There's still more ways for you to shoot yourself in the foot, basically, even if you separate every, variable or every state in its own store, right? So let's take a look first what the problem is in here. First of all, every time we do anything anywhere, we are re-rendering the buttons, which shouldn't be the case. I mean, the buttons don't need to be re-rendered. They are basically static. They should remain the same. They should just call the function. Why are they, re-rendering, right? So that's the first problem. The second problem is, let's say we are flipping the flag, right? Why is the counter being re-rendered and the more than 5? Why are we re-rendering these? They shouldn't re-render when that's the case. And equally so, when we increment and decrement, the flag should not re-render either, right? So we have a bunch of problems. And an application like this is fine. It's okay to shoot yourself in the foot a couple of times. You won't feel it. But there is if you're working a very complicated code base, if the re-rendering is very, very expensive, if it's something with React 3 Fiber, for example, that's where I've sort of noticed a lot of drops in performance and all that, or Slate.js or Play.js or whatever you use, you want to avoid this as much as you can, right? And obviously just to write more performant and better code. And as a matter of fact, it's more intuitive to write the code with an optimized version than with a non-optimized version. So let's take a look. We have in this app, we have basically the actions, the flag, and the counter. Let's take a look at the actions. In here, and this is how I used to use it, so maybe someone else uses it the same way. And this is where we are shooting our foot right now. In here, we're getting all the functions, and then we're just putting them in the on-click event handler in the buttons, right? That's how I would think of it. It's a hook. I just need to get the functions from the hook and then use them in here, right? Similar to, let's say, using, state and set state, right? You might think of these functions in the same way that you would think of a set state. That is the first problem. You don't need to do that. They are not in the same fashion where they're connected to, they are connected to the state, let's say, but they don't need to be defined inside of the function, or inside of the component itself, in this case, the action. In my head, and the way that I'm sort of thinking about them now, they're just simply a function that gets defined originally when we are calling the create function from zustand. That's it. They're nothing more than that. They're not related to hooks or to react in any fashion or in any way, right? So the first way, though, to do this and to, or let's say to solve this problem, is to instead just get their state directly without subscribing to the hook, right? So if we do this, for example, where we are getting the state of the function or of the zustand store, and we're just getting the functions themselves, right? And then just passing the functions. You can see in here, there's no more subscription to the store. We're not using any hook. We're not doing anything of that sort, inside, right? So if we take a look now, when we flip, when we increment, when we decrement, they don't re-render, because why would they? We're just getting the functions and then passing them to the state, right? And these functions won't, change. It's not like a use callback or something like that. We're getting all of that information and we're defining them in here, and they will never change once they're defined in here. That's it. So again, we don't need to connect them in any way with React or with the component that we have in here, right? So that's the first solution that we have. Now the buttons don't render. We're good. We've sort of removed one bullet from our foot, let's say. Now we have 3 more bullets. And let's go one by one. The flag going on and off when we are incrementing and decrementing the counter. Why is that happening? And let's take a look at the flag component. Let's see in here. So I'm getting the flag and I'm just putting it in here. Where is it getting the counter from? Where is it doing, anything of that sort? If you take a look properly, and if you're, more experienced than I was, or maybe you're more experienced than me or as experienced than me, but certainly more experienced than where I was before, you can see clearly that what you're doing in here is something basically similar to this. You are getting the entire store and then destructuring it to get the flag. What this means is that you've subscribed to the entire store. Any change in the store, in this case, with a counter, any change will cause a re-render in this component. We don't want that. We don't want to subscribe to the entire store. We just want to subscribe to the flag. We don't need anything else, right? So a better way to do this would be to use sort of the function callback, or I'm not sure what they call it in zustand, but to use this subscription system that they have to actually get a specific part of the state, not everything, right? So in here, what are we saying? We're getting the, maybe I should call it state, right? We're getting the state and we are returning whatever we want in here. In this particular case, we're returning the flag, right? And what this does, as you can imagine, you can see in here, we can get a selector, and from that selector, we return the value. And in here now, we're not subscribed to the entire store. We're just subscribed to the flag. And if you can look in here, obviously flipping the flag should cause a re-render, but incrementing and decrementing should not. And this is exactly what is happening right now. So that's perfect. Now we've removed 2 bullets from our foot. That's excellent, Let's remove the 3rd bullet, which is the counter. Same approach. We have a counter. It's doing the same thing. It's subscribing to the entire store. We just need the count, and we don't need to destructure anything in here. And there you go. So now this should also be as intended. So when we flip, obviously the counter does not change, but the flag does, right? So now the last bullet, more than 5. This essentially should only, ideally with what we want, it should only re-render once the counter reaches above 5. So, in this state, basically, when we're going from 5 to 6 or 6 to 5. Anywhere else, it shouldn't, right? So let's do this approach. To look at it, what is happening, we're subscribing to the entire store. We don't want that, so let's just get the count on its own, right? And that's perfect, right? You might assume that this is enough. We're doing basically everything that is needed, and we're testing if it's more than 5 in here. And, you know, if we can see in here, here's the problem. It's still re-rendering. Why? Obviously, we've subscribed only to the counter. But the subscription allows a re-render every time the counter changes. We don't want that. We only want it to change, again, from 5 to 6 or 6 to 5. Now you can see in here, this isn't just any kind of selector, or like a selector in the sense that, oh, you can only fetch the value or you know, get it or get a specific value. You can also manipulate what the value should be, right? So instead of doing this, we can do something like this, right? And maybe we should change the name. Let's call it more than 5, right? And that's right. And if you look now at the type of this, it's a Boolean. And this kind of subscription that we've created right now will only cause a re-render when this Boolean changes. Of course, the selector will always, you know, evaluate itself every single time when we change the count, but it will not cause a re-render unless, obviously, this changes. So if we look now to our application, when we increment, let me turn on the, when we increment, we're incrementing slowly. Now we're at 5. It should now re-render. There you go. And it re-rendered only at that time, right? Go back again, 5 to 6. There you go. So it's re-rendering exactly at the moment that we want it to re-render in, right? Now, a couple of things about this. Do you need to do this all the time? No, you obviously don't. This is an optimization that most of the time, like I sometimes just don't care and just, you know, whatever, write whatever code. But if performance is a priority for you, if you want to be detailed, and honestly, sometimes when I look at it, this is just far more elegant and oh, I need to show my screen. This is just far more elegant, far more straightforward. You can see clearly what is happening. Counter is more than 5, etc. It's just very straightforward, very simple. And so using this approach with selectors, knowing, you know, which elements need to be re-rendered in which state and at what time, these things is what makes React very powerful, and what makes it very bad to work with and very easy to shoot yourself in the foot with, let's say, if you don't know exactly what you were doing, similar to how I was, basically. And obviously, there might be some more tricks. I'm by no means a master in React or anything like that. I'm only someone who have shot himself enough times with the foot to have learned my lessons, and basically I'm just sharing my lessons for you, my lessons with you. So yeah, that's essentially what I have for today. How this relates to, obviously, if you're working in graphics, again, if you're working in anything where optimization is important, this is necessary. But again, if you're not, just want like some global variable you can use anywhere, that's fine. You can, it's okay to shoot yourself in the foot sometimes. But yeah, that's it for this video. The repository for this code will be in the description as well, if you want to check it out and if you want to play around with it and do some changes. And if you have any questions, leave a comment. And finally, if you've reached this point of the video, do subscribe. I am trying to make more videos like this. I'm trying to be more detailed and share essentially the more. I've shot myself a lot of times in the foot. My foot basically is gone at this point. So I want to share all these things that I've learned throughout basically the years that I've been coding. So yeah, if you're interested in that, do subscribe. And I believe that's all for I have for this video. Yeah. That's it. Take care. Bye-bye.